Hey, Fragrance Family, I'm David.
I'm Jer.
And we're the Fragrance Bros. This time we have a special guest.
The specialist.
And a special kind of segment that we got going on that we're wanting to try to do. We want to kick it off this time with the gorgeous and, of course, the very popular on YouTube, Katie Puckrik. Hey, Katie, how are you doing?
I'm Katie Puckrik from Katie Puckrik Smells.
Yes.
Yeah, nailed it. Bro Knuckles.
That's right. Thanks for joining us. It's really good to meet you in person. We've been huge fans of your channel, of course, and it's just thanks for taking your time to answer these questions with us.
Yes.
Well, it's my pleasure entirely, and I've heard via the grapevine that you guys have done a little tribute video.
Yeah.
I'm actually too shy to look at it. It would just make me blush, but I figured, why not just walk straight into the den of the lion?
We'll be good.
Yeah. I won't serenade you like I did in that video, I promise.
Anyway, we had a couple of questions. We have about 8 questions, and then we have some questions from Facebook as well. And so I guess we'll go ahead and get started.
Yeah.
First question we have is, what is your first fragrance memory, or earliest fragrance memory, and what started your love for perfumes?
Well, I have to say that probably my first smell memory was Christmas when I was 5 years old, and I was ripping open my presents in a frantic, desperate surge and urge to get my hands on all the new crap that I was going to be playing with and breaking over the next year. And the thing that stopped me in my tracks was this toy telephone I got. And it wasn't the telephone itself that I loved, it was the plastic wrapping that it came in. And I was like Dennis Hopper in Blue Velvet with the plastic, the clear plastic bubble over my face, like a frickin' oxygen mask, just snorting that stuff in. And I love the smell of that industrial revolution, melted plastic, carcinogenic, I don't know what. And that was just something that transfixed me. The power of smell.
There you go.
It's probably now an A-type Libre d'Orange perfume.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, all right. So your next one, Katie, is going to be, well, the question is, how did you start your career? Okay.
I didn't answer the second part of the question.
Oh, yeah.
The thing that kicked me off, you asked me, how did I get into perfume? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, what started your love for perfume?
Oh, okay. The thing that started me off with perfume was a fragrance that I nicked off my mom's vanity dresser, and it was by Revlon. It was called Intimate.
Okay.
And I think it was originally created in the 50s, but by the time I found it, you know, it was decades later, and I was probably about 13 or something. And when I've checked it out recently, somebody sent me, they had a decant of it, and they sent me a little droplet of their sample. And it's actually this really sophisticated, older French lady prostitute smell. It's really decadent, and it's filled with these animalic elements, and way too mature for a 13-year-old to wear.
Yeah.
But I thought that I was just Miss Hotsy Totsy. And in fact, I'm sure I was, in a pretty baby kind of way. And I remember it really put a tiger in my tank in terms of making me feel confident on my first date. So
Yeah.
I would have shown up for my first date smelling like some kind of French hooker from 1947. And I think that was the thing. It wasn't so much of, the young man's reaction to my perfume. It was my own reaction to myself.
Yeah.
It was one of those things where, what's my motivation? Oh, I know, smelling like a French hooker.
Now, did he say anything whenever you wore it on your date?
No. I just think that, it was the total package. It was a whole
Yeah.
impact thing.
Yeah.
And this leads me to, I get always on Katie Puckrik Smells, people will write to me, especially guys will write and ask, what is a surefire perfume that is going to make the women, follow me in a line,
Yeah.
Pied Piper style, out of the
Right.
nightclub or whatever it is. And you know, there is no one thing that all women like. It's like saying, what is women's favorite color? Or, you know, what food do all women like? There's no such thing. I think it's more about, what do you like? What's going to make you be firing on all pistons, and what's going to make you feel confident and attractive?
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, okay, so I'm curious. I know that you had some career in television and some writing and things before Perfume. I saw a particularly amazing video of you and Grace Jones a few days ago with the ringlets. That was great. I was curious what the transition was from that sort of film to YouTube and all that sort of thing.
Well, the transition, for me, there's never a master plan. I'm just sort of tiptoeing through the tulips in everything I do. My background is as a performer and a writer, so that led me indirectly into hosting television shows here in the UK. I lived in London for many years, and then in turn that broadened out to journalism and radio, and my interests are everything from lifestyle to culture, pop culture, music, all that sort of thing. And because I always loved perfume, and it was always, you know, when I think back on it, I realized I actually had a niche perfume. I bought my first niche perfume when I was about 16, and it was a line called Perfumer's Workshop, and you can still get Tea Rose by them. But they used to have a whole line of all these different florals, and I had something called Tiger Lily, I think.
Nice.
And then probably about 10 years ago, when niche started to be a real force in the market, and I was living in London at the time, I started to get more and more into these obscure, like Diptyque, L'Autois, that was an early incense that I had, and then there was another perfume company called Divine, and they're still going. They're based in France, and so I had their signature scent, Divine. So I started to get more and more interested in seeking out these little off the beaten track fragrances. So I didn't necessarily smell like everybody else, and it was just a different way that I like to express myself. And the thing that just pushed me into full-blown fume obsession was the perfect storm of Luca Turin and Tanya Sanchez's book coming out, Perfumes, the Guide, at the same time that I discovered a fantastic perfume store in Los Angeles called Lucky Scent, also called the Scent Bar. Lucky Scent is the online e-tailer version of it. And so I had the book, I had Perfumes, the Guide, I had the store, I was reading about things, I was smelling them, and it just completely captivated my imagination. I love the idea that you could express yourself through a smell and then try and analyze what that effect that smell was having on you.
Yeah.
So the person who really should get credit for launching Katie Puckrik Smells is my husband Jay, and it was because I was boring him senseless every time I come back from the scent bar going, oh, you gotta smell this, and try this, and that. He could care less. He was just like, can you tell somebody who cares? Because I really don't. And he was the one who figured out. He was the one who figured out that there wasn't really a presence on YouTube of, there wasn't really a perfume reviewing work. There certainly were tutorials. There were beauty tutorials, and but there was no real dedicated course in that direction. So. It just was a natural, from my background in doing TV hosting and the fact that I was a writer and I love perfume, it was just the natural step.
Now, with the Luca Turin book, did that kind of shape how you wanted to do your reviews of fragrances? Because I know they were kind of a little bit, some people say they're a little snobby, and yours are a little bit more down to earth. Did that kind of shape your idea of Katie Puckrik Smells?
I think it did. The way that Luca Turin and Tanya Sanchez write, I think it's a fantastic mixture of high-low. So they pull references from culture, they pull references from pop music, they talk about food, it's cross-referential, and I don't find them pretentious. I find them accurate to, in terms of expressing their experience of the perfume, and I find them passionate. So those were the idea of being specific to your experience and passionate. Those things appealed to me because before the whole YouTube perfume explosion, there were obviously blogs. I mean, and that was, I should say, I have to do a shout out to all the blogs that I was reading. Face Notes, Makeup Alley, Now Smell This. Those were like the three go-to blogs, and there was also Perfume of Luck and Perfume Shrine was in there. So I was reading all the blogs, and sometimes people I felt were a little overly precious about how they wrote about perfume, and it was a little purple prosy, and it was perhaps a little like a creative writing exercise. And it was, and I definitely was inspired by the way that Luca and Tanya spoke about perfume, and I was also inspired by how Nathan Branch on his blog spoke about perfume, and I hadn't met him yet. We're now friends, but I remember thinking, he's my fume-kin in terms of being playful and funny, and but also specific and informational.
Yeah.
And I knew that when I started my YouTube channel, I wanted to be accessible. And one of the things that enabled me to be accessible is the fact that this is a whole new ball game that we're in. We're all kind of pioneers and trying to figure out, how do you parse a perfume? How do you catch a cloud and pin it down? How do you describe something that is almost indescribable? So I decided I didn't want to be too artsy, very, very pretentious, didactic, dogmatic. I wanted to be more like, I'm exploring this foreign territory and then bringing it back to the mothership and sharing it with all of you.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned your husband, and we have wives, and of course our friends know about our YouTube channel. What do your friends and family think about your channel and your obsession?
Some of my family are, I think the word to use is bemused. I think I mean, you know how it is. It's like you have a weird nerd niche obsession on anything.
Yes.
Anything, perfume, inner tubes, train spotting, knitting, and you can really find, if you went on a crochet blog or a train spotting blog, you would find the same kind of passion, nerdiness, feuds, just obsession. And so I think that, so it's either the reaction is confusion and bemusement, or a lot of interest. And in fact, I have a lot of friends who are really interested in perfume in a natural way, like not in a nerdy collector way, like we all are, like how we're like ticking things off our list, making sure that we're smelling all the most obscure things. Like I have friends who just genuinely love a perfume. I have one girlfriend, she'll wear Flower Bomb one day, then she'll wear Sartorial by Penhaligon's, and then she'll wear a Byredo perfume. I mean, and she's not snobby about it. She just thinks, oh, this smells good, I'm going to wear it. And I think that's a really great way to be.
Totally. So, Katie, you've been asked this before, I'm sure, but what are some of your favorite perfumes? I'm not going to nail you down to like 5 or 10, but what are some of your favorite of all time?
You know how it is, the more you smell, the more you love, and then the more promiscuous you are, and then the more fickle you are, and the more disloyal you are.
Traitor!
When I think back to it's a little bit like being a rock star with all those groupies. So many girls, so little time. So when I fell in love with perfume, there were definitely bottles that I would wear from beginning to end, and those were things like Cristal by Chanel, and then that turned into, the next one was Diarella by Dior. And I miss those times when you have that absolute fidelity to a perfume. But now, I guess the closest I get to something like that, and I can tell because I did just bring a select high rotation cut of perfumes with me when I came to London a few months ago. I brought Portrait of a Lady by Frederic Malle.
Nice.
I brought Hommage by Amouage. And then there's another attar by Amouage called, I need to look at it's similar to that one. It's called, oh my goodness. I can't remember. Anyway, it translates as fawn eyes, believe it or not, which, I don't know, it probably makes more sense in Arabic. Then there's one by Bruna Acampora called Musk, which is probably, it's probably like more like a glorified Kiehl's musk oil. But I love, oh, and then I think there's another one I wanted to mention. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, and I recently rediscovered Clinique Aromatics Elixir. I love that one.
Wow.
I love incenses. So basically, you can just boil it all down to rose, incense. I call them Queen of Sheba perfumes because I just imagine them being like that's what people were wearing in the ancient days.
Yeah.
And they just have this oriental mystique and a bit of decadence and earthiness and anything that's musky and rich. I think there's one more I wanted to mention. Avignon by Comme des Garçons.
Nice.
And I do love, there's one called Saffron Troublant by L'Artisan Parfumeur, which is an amazing, it's rose and it's saffron and a little bit of vanilla. But, so yeah, there's a few to get you going.
Yeah. Now, is there a particular house that you really, really enjoy or that you admire above others?
Yes. I think Frederic Malle does a great job over at Frederic Malle Towers, wherever they are, wherever Fred is, Fred and the gang. I think that's it's just a great model. The fact that he's sort of the editor. He brings in the best authors that are around and gives them free reign. I mean, up to a point, because he's very much a collaborator in whatever they're doing, and money's no object, and the ingredients are beautiful, and the perfumes are created within a paradigm of classic perfumes. I mean, they're not like so strange and crazy. They're not trying to create new forms. They're not being provocative just to be provocative, but they are contemporary versions of classic perfumes. So I think that's a really great line. Also, I love Miller Harris. Miller Harris is a line that is not widely distributed outside of the UK, but Lynn Harris is the perfumer there. She learned what she knows by training with Jean-Claude Elena, and her perfumes are very, they really smell real to me. Like you really get a sense if you smell something like La Fumée, which is her recent labdanum and amber perfume and incense. It really does smell like you've set the fields of Spain alight, and you're just smelling the cinders and the melting resin. It's quite remarkable. So that's a great line. And L'Artisan Parfumeur, I think that's a wonderful line as well. It's I'm not crazy on lines that they just pop up out of nowhere and everything's, all the bottles are $300 and I don't know, they're like big and dense and clunky. The smells. I mean, I like to smell nuances, and I like to smell. I like to, the idea that there's a little bit of creativity.
Nice.
In the bottle.
Yeah. Dave's scent of the day is.
My scent of the day is Tea for Two by L'Artisan. Love it.
Tea for two.
That's right.
Yeah, that's a great one. That's a lovely smoky chai. I think it's great. Yeah, it's sort of in line with that Paris Midnight in Paris, that was it Van Cleef and Arpels did that one, but
Yeah.
Tea for Two is a better version of that, I think.
That's good.
That makes me great for a little bit.
I'll drink some water.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
All right, Katie, it's time to get real. What is your guilty pleasure?
right.
Your guilty pleasure fragrance? Go.
I would like to answer that question by saying I don't believe in the concept of guilty pleasures, because pleasure is pleasure. Like, people talk about liking something ironically, and I think, well, that's pretty self-defeating. You're faking liking something? Like, no,
Yeah.
either you love the Partridge Family or you don't. It's
Right.
like, don't give me the, people put quotation marks around something just in case, someone will call them on it, and then they'll look stupid, and then they have to say, oh no, I don't really like it, I was just saying it was guilty pleasure. So, having said that, having put those quotation marks around my answer,
Okay.
I have a fondness for perfumes that I remember from being a teenager, and one of them is, there was a line called Love's Fresh, this, that, or the other, like Love's Baby Soft and stuff. So there was one I liked called Love's Fresh Lemon, which you can still get in certain drugstores. And it doesn't, it's a shadow of its former self, but I think that's great. There's another one, and I guess I would say instead of these being guilty pleasures, I would just call them cheap and cheerful. But another one I love is Jovan Musk for Men. I think that's also great. And in fact, my dad used to wear it, so there, it's a little bit of sentimental value there.
Cool.
Oh, and then I like Skin Musk. It used to be made by Bonnie Bell. So, and I have a little bottle of that. Oh, and I have a little bottle of Love's Freshmen. So I think all those smells are great. I was just say Kiehl's Musk as well. And the thing about white musks is that they're, I was gonna say they're so cheap to make, and so they're cheap to buy, but really all perfume is pretty cheap.
Yeah.
And then it just slaps on a huge premium because it's Chanel or whatever it is.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Now, I'm sure that you probably have some friends in the fragrance industry, etc. But with the fragrance world or the fragrance industry, however you want to define it, what particular things do you love and what frustrates you?
I don't know if there's anything I could pick out that I love. I'm sure, they're doing a good job. The individual people are probably working hard and bringing home the bacon, but I don't know. I can't, I don't know. But I can, if you want to get me complaining about the things that jack my job,
Yeah.
where do you want to start? Like anyone else, I'm not going to say anything that's, news to anyone, but just the enormous flood of needless and boring and cruddy and dreary fragrance releases every year. I mean, we're just inundated with crap, and it's so cynical from the fragrance industry, because they figure, this is, we've got our customers on the hook. There is more of an appreciation and enjoyment with kind of a hobbyist aspect of perfume, especially with the blogs and the YouTube channels, and the fragrance companies are recognizing that. And then they bring out flanker after flanker, or they'll bring out perfumes that are called the same thing as the last one, but they have nothing in common with them. And I mean, something in recent years that I just found appalling was when Dior completely reformulated Miss Dior Cherie because they wanted to own the formula. They didn't own the formula. So they decided, well, let's just still call it Miss Dior Cherie and completely change it from being a strawberry patchouli into something else.
Wow.
And I think that shows such contempt for the customers. You have all these, young women going, well, where's the perfume that I used to know and love? And then recently they changed it. They stopped calling it Miss Dior Cherie. It's now called Miss Dior, which is also confusing because they still sell the original 1940s Miss Dior. So those sorts of little jiggery pokery things, I think it shows a a certain lack of respect for the customer, and of course reformulating things all the time, every few years, because they've decided that something is going to be an allergen or harmful or something, and it's based on who knows what, you know, the barest of evidence.
Yeah.
So those sort of things get me a little bit exercised.
We've been particularly frustrated with the sport flanker trend of the past really this past year, I guess.
Yeah.
It's just gone crazy with Dolce & Gabbana, the one, and what is
Miyake.
There's nothing to them. There's nothing interesting. It's just like some citrus on their old stuff. Really, it's all they do. And
yeah, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's like it's a very, I call it pin the tail on the donkey style of perfume making. It's just like put the blindfold on. You know, you've got the tail. You stick it somewhere.
Yeah.
It's eeny, meeny, miny, mo. It's a shell game. It's just one from column A, two from column B. I find it just cynical.
Yeah. Agreed. All right, Katie, what sort of things do you like doing that aren't fragrance related, like just hobbies other than that?
Well, in real life, in the real world, when I get out of the the strange Silence of the Lambs basement that I do my work in, I just like any kind of sensory stimulation. So that goes from music. I love, you know, going to see bands, going to clubs, you know, to see bands. I love eating. I love drinking whiskey. That's kind of a newer thing, bourbon and whiskey. Over the last couple of years, I've started to enjoy those sorts of activities. A whiskey hobby, that's nice. I like just going out, being outdoors. Living in LA is great because there's so much nature. So I do a lot of walking and hiking, and I love all that kind of thing. I do a lot of yoga. My background is as a dancer, so I more or less sort of keep up with dance classes, doing ballet, that kind of thing. I can't really think. The weirdest thing I do is prescribe perfume. That's my weird, problem child activity. My rocking in a corner activity, but everything else is pretty wholesome.
Now we have some questions. I want to actually give a shout out to Carlos Powell of the group Peace, Love, and Perfume on on Facebook, and we actually made this kind of an exclusive question to that group. So they actually gave us about 5 questions. If you don't mind answering them real quick. This should be quick.
Bring them.
Okay, Marika Sade, hope I'm saying her name right, asked, Secretions Magnifique, did you buy it?
What? That's a crazy question. No, when I did that video, that was actually a throwdown. That was a perfume challenge from my blog contributor, Dan Roleri. So he had sent me, I think he bought it, and he'd sent me a decant of it. So no. I still have the decant, but that stuff is appalling. Don't make me relive that even by thinking it.
That was my favorite, my favorite review of yours. It was just the how long you were like waiting. You kept slathering on, like delaying the inevitable.
That's because you're a sadist.
I am. Something's wrong with me. Yeah.
Review of mine. Yeah, my pain was your gain, buddy.
Indeed, it was. Thank you for that. The second question comes from Gojira Torres. If you could bring back, hey Gojiro, if you could bring back one discontinued fragrance, what would it be?
Okay, that's a good question. There's 2 I would bring back. One is a perfume that it was okay. I'm going to now contradict the thing I said earlier about there's no such thing as the magic bullet that's going to make the opposite sex or the same sex, if that's your flavor of fun, follow you, down the street. There was one perfume I used to have that men always said, "What are you wearing? You smell great." And that was by a Revlon company called Ultima 2, and the perfume was called Sheer Scent. And it was out in the 90s, and I now and it's discontinued, so I wish I could go back. And I now realize it smells like a lighter version of Fahrenheit by Dior, and I love Fahrenheit. So actually I could probably just get away with wearing Fahrenheit. But it had a very interesting, non-girly, leathery, petrol, smoky, green, violet leaf sort of smell. And that was very unusual for women's perfumes. That's probably why it's not around anymore. And then the other perfume I would love to smell is whatever Cleopatra wore to seduce Mark Antony, because there are all these great stories about how she would come sailing in on a barge that would be strewn with rose petals and jasmine, and the sails of her barge would be just drenched in fragrance oil and perfume oil of these precious flowers. And so just this, I'd love to smell what she actually anointed herself with.
That might be discontinued. It might be.
I think it is.
I'm not sure.
Monica Miller asked about some of your favorite scents that are not perfume and just in real life.
There's a really great combination of smells that happens in my neighborhood in the Hollywood Hills in Los Angeles, and it's in the springtime, like early springtime, maybe around March, when it's still pretty wet outside. There's a lot of rain that happens in the spring there, and people are still burning wood in their fireplaces. So when you walk down the street, you smell like a peaty, kind of not rotting, but like a earthy dirt smell. And it's wet and it's slick, and then you smell the burning wood, and then you start to smell these new like there's some great trees that smell so fragrant and beautiful. So it's this great combination. It's almost an incense, and then there's a floral aspect, and I always think, oh, if that could be a perfume, that would be the perfume I'd want to make. So that's great. And then another smell, it sounds weird, but anyone who has a cat will know that, if you pet your cat and you pet their stomach, and then one thing leads to another, and you're going, oh, kitty tummy. Now, that probably leads back into my hobbies. I should have added the kitty tummy thing into my list of hobbies. But, there's just that great smell of animal fur, clean animal fur, and it doesn't go into the zoo category, but I think that's a great smell, cat tummy. Obviously, the plastic wrapping from my toy phone when I was 5. So whenever to this day, if I smell that plastic smell again, I do go into the Dennis Hopper out of Blue Velvet with an oxygen mask or whatever he was snorting in that mess. And let's see. I think one of the interesting things about smells is that there's a lot of consensus on what smells good. I think everyone is like, yeah, sawn wood smells good, baking cookies, the ocean, pine forest. Everyone is kind of on board with like, yeah, that's salubrious. I feel good smelling that. So I like all those things.
There's a guy in the community by the name of Dan Mish who recently said he loves the smell of skunk.
Skunk is good from very far away.
Yeah.
You can't be close to skunk. And in fact, there's a feature on my blog, Katie Puckrik Smells, called Viewer Mail, and people send in really great inquiries about how can they attain various unusual smells. And I've been asked about, they want to smell like Chinese pollution, or they want to smell like a certain kind of floor polish. And there's always a perfume that smells like that. And skunk, somebody wrote and said that they wanted to smell like skunk, and there are actually perfumes that will hit the skunk spot.
Probably an oud perfume that hits that spot. Not an oud fan.
And vetiver. Vetivers can be really sinus clouding. Like I'm thinking of something like the Lalique
Encre Noir.
Vetiver, Encre Noir.
Yeah.
That one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, I know. The one by Nazomato.
Duro or
which one is that?
Black Afghano?
What?
Black Afghano or Duro or
Oh,
Pardon?
Afghano. That was the one.
Okay.
Yeah, not Duro. Afghano. That's the one that smells like skunk to me.
Ooh.
Far away skunk.
God. Okay. All right. The next question comes from Suni Landry. What is your favorite review of yours? Your favorite one that you've done?
Well, I guess I have to agree with you, Jared, that Secretions Magnifique is probably the one. That's the doozy.
Yeah.
Because that's really me. That's really me. You see, it's kind of there's no. I'm totally unguarded, and also because I'm smelling it for the first time on camera, so that's my real response. So I every time I happen to come across it or check it or look at it or whatever, it makes me smile because I think, that's the real me responding. I'm not delivering information or being the expert. I'm really just being assaulted by this smell.
Excellent.
And our last question comes from Paulo Gomez, and he asks, when are you going to do a new collection video?
Well, I'd love to do a new collection video. However, there are many, many miles of Atlantic Ocean and an entire continent containing the United States separating me from my collection. So my collection is back in Los Angeles and I'm here in London. And I would like to do that. Although, I'm pausing, I'm hesitating here because I'm thinking, I've started to amass a refill on tour collection, if you will, a capsule collection. So maybe I could do a little, my travel perfume collection. So yeah, maybe I'll deliver the goods on that one.
Go Paolo. Nice question.
Well, it was really
that's
right.
Yeah.
It was really a pleasure interviewing you and talking to you. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for your channel too. We really love your channel.
Well, thank you so much, Frag Bros. I appreciate your enthusiasm, and I'm tickled pink that you wanted to griddle me and grill me. Is grilling and griddling the same? I guess I end up cooked either way.
You do.
But
the surface upon which we do this is...
Yeah, and to all our subscribers, if they haven't checked out Katie Puckrik, which is probably only those who live under a rock,
they all have.
They need to subscribe to your channel, Katie Puckrik Smells, and check out your blog.
Check out my blog. It's all there. You can get from one place to the other by going either on YouTube or going to the blog, and it's all called Katie Puckrik Smells. Or if you just type in fumehead.com, you can find me.
Nice.
So I'm never far away.
Synergy.
That's right. Well, that was great. Thank you so much, Katie. We really love you. So thanks for your time. We'll see you later.
Bye.